Firefighters and other emergency workers are called out night and day, weekends and holidays, often for many hours. They'll be out in all kinds of weather conditions, often missing meals. And they're happy to see the canteen services of the Milwaukee Fire Bell Club.
Hot chocolate or coffee if you got it.
Hot chocolate or coffee, your choice. What would you like to have?
I'll take hot chocolate, sounds good. It's getting cold out there.
The civilian volunteers of the Fire Bell Club support fire, police, and sheriff's departments. Its members come from the city and suburbs from all walks of life. When there's a major emergency, the emergency support unit is there.
They're very much appreciated. On the sub-zero nights when it's 10, 20, 30 below zero, a cup of coffee is well appreciated after a couple hours fighting fires, that we can go and perhaps take a 5-10 minute break, get a nice warm cup of coffee, and jump right back into the fire. A lot of people in the Fire Bell Club have an association or relationship. Maybe their father or brother or relative was a member of the Fire Bell. Maybe they just are interested in providing that public service, just as we do to the citizens. They're very much involved, so they're tremendously appreciated by the firefighters, and especially by myself. But there is a bond there. We are serving the public. That's one of the things they look at. When you can get doctors and lawyers and in all walks of life out to support us at a long duration incident, it's greatly appreciated. And I hope the citizens appreciate the service they provide us, just to make everything flow that much easier.
Ray Ropel is a service station operator when he's not helping at an emergency. The Fire Bell Club president says its members are basically fire buffs who enjoy the excitement, challenge, and strategy involved in firefighting. But because of their high regard for the emergency workers, they also want to provide a service.
Well, I suppose as a kid you always wanted to be a firefighter. Chase fire trucks when you were a kid. You watch the fire trucks going down the road, but you never really sought out that career, but you still had the firefighting service within you. And when the opportunity came along for me to join the Fire Bell Club, I jumped at the chance.
A scanner is never far away from club members. Listening while they work keeps them up to date on what's happening and often gives them a head start before the official call comes in.
We tune up to the engine on the cars that we're working on, and we also tune up to the scanner when there's a fire call being broadcast. If we go to a third alarm, the fire department would send out a message to our dispatch service, and again that message would come across: attention to Fire Bell Club members, there's a 3-alarm fire or a greater alarm fire at the given address, would you please respond? Well, if that's the case, I just tell my fellows goodbye, I'll see you in a couple hours, I'm going to go to the fire. We have a lot of members in our club who are really true fire buffs. They'll take a ride over to a working fire, they'll take a ride to a 2nd alarm fire, but it's actually on the 3rd alarm fire that the whole unit gets together as a unified group to perform our service.
This exhibit at the downtown fire headquarters is another project of the Fire Bell Club. The display of former emergency vehicle warning devices was donated to Milwaukee firefighters. Club members take part in many fire department activities.
Say we have a honors awards night for bravery or things of that nature. They participate and they're part of our celebration. They're very supportive of our training activities. If we're going to be locked up in providing a rescue or a training scenario to practice our plans, they're incorporated in on those types of activities. They come in, they know their position, they know how they work within our command structure. We place them strategically so that they can be of the best service to us and still be able to move around behind the lines of the fire scene. So not a burden whatsoever, a tremendous asset as far as the fire department is concerned.
This training exercise last fall brought out a number of emergency agencies and the Fire Bell Club. Past president Harold Holtzman has been with the club 41 years.
Many of us, I was born and raised next to a firehouse. Engine 16, which was located on 24th, Walnut and Lisbon, and it was my home away from home. I enjoyed helping them and running errands, and it sort of got into my blood. And I and our members have been able to repay a service that they do for all of the citizens and put their life on the line every day. So we feel we can repay them by giving them support.
I feel as though belonging to the Fireball Club, it gives me more of a chance to do a personal service, giving something back to the community that perhaps I have taken out. It's just a different type of an organization, you know.
The club is limited to 40 active members. You must be at least 18 years of age.
Education. Education is the key. I mean, you can't give these children enough education. You can't tell them enough truth about what it's really like to be in a gang. And what better place to do that than in a school setting?
Today's lesson is going to revolve around goal setting. And throughout the last 8 weeks that we've been together, we have been learning all the different aspects of the Gang Resistance Education and Training Program. We talked about in the beginning, we did an introduction to let you know what the G.R.E.A.T program was all about. How it was founded in Phoenix, Arizona, back in '92 by educators. Police got together realizing that there was a problem by the influence of gangs in their neighborhoods, how harmful it was, and that we needed to be able to provide some alternatives. And now we have this program, which is a national program, that's spreading across the United States like wildfire. And you, fortunately, get to be a part of it. We talked about crime victims and your rights. We talked about cultural sensitivity. We've talked about meeting your basic needs. We talked about responsibility and the importance of it.
Gangs cross all racial, ethnic backgrounds, big cities, small cities. They've basically infiltrated every part of the American community. The need for this program is there. If one kid decides to join a gang, that's one too many, in my opinion.
These 7th graders at Fritchie Middle School are among some 4,000 Milwaukee teens who took part this year in the program, which encourages alternatives to gang activity. Classroom discussions are reinforced with stories of real-life tragedies of other teens in the community. The G.R.E.A.T students also talk about success stories, such as this article written recently about a former gang member.
And now this guy started his own business after being incarcerated, after doing prison time. He's got his own business. And now what's he doing? He's out helping other people in the community, helping former gang members and saying, hey, don't take the route I took. Because he had a task, a skill that he could use, right, to make money, have a living. But he went way off his little straight line, didn't he? But he got back on. And that's what's important. Now, we know that we're trying to teach in this program gang resistance. I don't want to see any of you get involved in a gang. Because if you're getting involved in a gang, I told you early on that you wind up suffering that thing I call was a DDJ.
Death, destruction, or jail.
What was it?
Death, destruction, or jail.
What was it?
Death, destruction, or jail.
Yeah, death, destruction, and jail, right? If you don't realize that getting involved in those activities will lead to your death or your destruction in jail, then we haven't met our goals.
Learn how you can. Build. Use your brain. Expect success. Blue team.
An integral part of the G.R.E.A.T program is the follow-up summer project, which involves about 300 students.
In order to partake in our summer program, the child has to successfully complete the school curriculum. They're not allowed to enter into our summer program until they've put forth the effort in the schoolwork.
What kinds of things do they do in the summertime?
We do a variety of things. We keep these children very busy. We have guest speakers that come in and talk about their life, their jobs, their careers. We have a lot of community service projects, graffiti removal, alley cleanups, helping the elderly helping the homeless. We run a food drive. We take some field trips. It's just a very, very balanced program. They get a lot of exposure to the different community service groups in the neighborhood, in the city, and they dedicate a lot of man hours to volunteer work. They have a good time, they build relationships, they build friendships with each other that in some cases last, we hope, a lifetime. Positive relationships, not only with each other, but with us. There are studies out there that say that this program is working. The Department of Justice has just come out with its own study that says that this is a very successful program. And in my heart and in my mind, and all of us that do this program, we believe that it is. We've seen the success stories. We can talk about them.
We spend way too much time seeing young people fall victim to crime, kids killing other kids, people winding up in prison. That's no way to live your life. I don't want to see any of you winding up that way. I don't want to see any kid giving up and reeling like they don't have a choice. I hear that over and over again all the time. Because of peer pressure, kid says, I didn't have any choice. You didn't have any choice. You could have done it or not done it. The big problem that you have a lot of times is you don't always have a reason why not to do something that you see everybody else doing. And now, with this program, I've given you a whole lot of reasons not to, right?
Linda LaPlante is one of the 45 Milwaukee parking checkers that are now armed with the auto sight. Cities that already use them have experienced a 10% increase in citations. Might not sound like a lot, but that would mean the parking checkers may soon be writing some 800,000 tickets a year.
Certainly downtown business district and UWM area have the most parking meters, and certainly there's where there's a lot of enforcement takes place. However, the night parking regulations in the city of Milwaukee actually is the one place where the most parking tickets are issued. The necessity of having odd even parking and be able to plow the streets, sweep the streets, and certainly give access to emergency vehicles. So the majority of tickets are written for the night parking ordinance.
There are less problems with the weather. The ink on the ticket won't run because it's water soluble, so we don't have the problems with people not being able to read the tickets and us being able to read the ticket.
We have a lot of outstanding parking tickets where we don't know who the owner is because of either an error in maybe entering the ticket or an error in key punching that ticket after it was done. This should eliminate most of that. In addition, it gives us the ability to put into the device almost 50,000 scofflaws, the most egregious people who aren't paying tickets. We know where they are. As soon as we find those people and they're illegally parked, we can call a tow truck and have that car towed for those unpaid citations. Before, if they were issuing a ticket and they had some suspicion, they'd have to call back to the city's tow desk. They'd have to look up on a record and see how many outstanding citations. Then they'd have to call the checker back in the field, and that whole process obviously just reduced productivity. Here it's an instantaneous. They'll know immediately if this car has a number of multiple citations on it and can call the tow truck at that time. I think the important feature of this is that we'll be able to identify the people who are getting parking tickets much earlier. We'll be able to notice them if they don't pay those tickets within the first 10 days, and if they continue not to pay, we'll take further collection efforts. I think this is going to dramatically reduce the amount of outstanding parking tickets, and that certainly is a benefit to the city. Right now we have about $9 million in unpaid parking tickets where we know who those owners are, and we can't, they refuse to pay. We'll be able to find those vehicles, and if they continue not to pay, especially if they have multiple tickets, tow those vehicles and let them know that the city is serious about collecting parking tickets.
In addition to finding those scofflaws who have been refusing to pay parking tickets, the computers will also contain other valuable information.
Prior to the parking checkers going out on the street, information is transferred or uploaded into the handheld device. Information on stolen vehicles, stolen plates, and scofflaws. Those are individuals who have 2 or more tickets open that are 30 days old. So that information is in the handheld device. As the parking checker goes about their business and writes tickets, they will press print prior to the ticket being produced, if that plate is stolen, if that car is stolen, it will flash, it will beep, telling them that it is either stolen or the person has tickets open. So they will then contact the desk to make sure that that is true and correct, and then we'll order a tow if it is a scofflaw. And if it's stolen, we'll then recover the stolen vehicle. The parking checkers will return to their district station. They'll plug the AutoSite device into a computer, and in 1 minute, all the information that was entered into the AutoSite device will be entered automatically into the computer system. So now, rather than having to data enter 700,000 tickets, they're being electronically transferred into the system, and it's really magnificent.
The parking checkers issue about 90% of all tickets in the city. Police officers issue the rest, and they'll continue to use the old method. In the future, they could also use the computers for traffic and municipal citations.
Technology is wonderful. We looked at this technology 3 years ago, and quite frankly, the units were cumbersome. The printer wasn't built into the handheld ticket writer device. It was a separate unit. There was some question as to whether they'd work in our climate. So at that time, it was rejected. But technology, like everything, it's smaller, cheaper, faster. So I believe this is really the wave of the future. Most large cities have gone to this technology previously, and I think it's a good thing we waited, and we think we have a real fine product that we're going to be able to use for many years to come.
While technology is changing the way parking tickets are issued, you'll be expected to deal with them the old-fashioned way: pay the fine or contest the ticket in court. One thing hasn't changed: pay now or pay later.
Hey you, Mr. Top of the Food Chain guy. The water's getting cleaner down here, but you're not off the hook yet. When you leave stuff in the street, it ends up here in the river. Lawn clippings, fertilizer, oil, even pet waste. Yuck. So hey, recycle antifreeze and used motor oil. Pick up your pet waste, skip the lawn chemicals, and don't litter. For more clean water tips, call the Milwaukee Cleaner River Project at 286-8162. Or hey, drop me a line.
The city of Milwaukee continues to do what it can to improve the Milwaukee River and bring new economic development to its banks with new business, housing, and recreation. The river has always influenced our city's identity, but for many years we didn't recognize what we were doing to it.
Welcome to the good old days, when the Milwaukee River served as a companion to the city's growth in commerce and recreation. By the late 1830s, the Milwaukee Harbor docked over 180 commercial vessels each year. The river was alive with activity. By the 1850s, popular demand led to the first swimming schools on both banks of the Milwaukee River. Ah, yes, those were the good old days. But how good were they? We really don't know how clean the river was. Complaints about water quality started in the 1880s. Only 30 years after the swimming schools opened. We only gradually built a sewage treatment system. But as business and industry and the city's population grew, more and more pollutants were dumped in the Milwaukee River. No one knew the consequences. By the 1940s, the swimming schools were closed. The river's pollution was obvious, and people turned away from it. But much has been done to bring the river back. In 1972, the Federal Clean Water Act required control of water pollution from industries as well as sewage treatment plants. Since then, the pollution coming from specific traceable sources, known as point source pollution, from industries and sewage treatment plants, has come under more and more effective control. So in 1985, Wisconsin communities began tackling the problem of runoff pollution in the Milwaukee River with the help of the Department of Natural Resources Priority Watershed Program.
What we're really trying to do is educate people on what runoff pollution is and what the sources are, and then to tie it into how they can change habits or do things differently that would reduce that pollution.
You can help reduce that pollution by taking hazardous waste to a household collection site for proper disposal. Stop or reduce the use of pesticides and fertilizers. Take your automobile oil to a public collection site for recycling. Compost your leaves or leave them for collection by the city. Leave grass clippings on the lawn. Dispose of pet waste properly. These 7th graders from St. Anthony of Padua are among many community groups which help in the educational effort by stenciling warning messages next to city storm drains.
I thought it was a good idea for the 7th graders, and so we started. So this is our 3rd year, and the students enjoy it a lot. We do talk about it a little bit, but I think this drives it home more.
We want to make people aware, both the people who are stenciling the message, but then also the residents, the people in the area, that whatever you pour or you dump or it gets washed into that drain is going directly to our rivers and lakes without any kind of treatment.
The Milwaukee River Restoration Project, while not specifically a part of the Cleaner River Project, is also helping restore the river.
The effect it has is to greatly improve the water quality in the Milwaukee River and ultimately the harbor area as well by removing the dam and the stagnant water that was behind there. As a side benefit, it has also opened up a lot of areas for fish movement.
While much has been done to make the Milwaukee River cleaner and more attractive to development, much remains to be done.
I kind of relate it back to recycling in the early 70s when people just first started hearing about the concept of recycling, and it's taken a long time for people to kind of adopt it. We're at the infancy right now. We're making people aware that things they do impact the water quality. And here are some alternatives you can do to lessen that impact. We're many years away from having people doing this as a second nature.
There you go. Good job. All right.
Hey, Mammal Man, it's me again, your lovable, huggable fish friend. You gotta stop trashing my place. When you dump something in the street, it ends up here in the river. Lawn clippings, fertilizer, oil, even pet waste. Yuck! Storm drains don't have any filters, you know, so what goes in the street goes in the river. Do me a favor, will ya? Keep the river clean. To find out more, call the Milwaukee Cleaner River Project at 286-8162. Or hey, drop me a line.